This is an amateur pianist. This is a professional pianist, and this is quite possibly one of the most beautiful piano songs ever written. And today, we're going to try and learn to play it. I'm going to try and learn it in about a month, and given my current level, it is going to take a lot of practice. We'll find out just why this piece is known for being quite difficult, and I'll be trying a grand piano for the first time in my life. So welcome back to another episode of learning something because it's fun, not because it's employable. And this time, we're learning the Fantasy Impromptu by Chopin. But why, you ask, is some random skating channel making a piano video now? Well, simply put, I broke my ankle doing a cartwheel. No, not doing anything cool, but I still have my hands, and so for the next month, we'll be sweating it out on the piano. And why Chopin's Fantasy Impromptu? Well, despite the fact that this piece was released posthumously over 100 years after it was originally written, and this is despite Chopin's requests to have the music destroyed after he died. Drawing inspiration from the third movement of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, it remains one of Chopin's most famous works. And one of the big reasons as to why this piece is so popular amongst pianists, other than the fact that it goes hard as are the polyrhythms. While the left hand plays an odd 3 number of notes, the right hand will play an even 4. This has the effect of interweaving the notes from the left and right hands like some sort of fabric of gold, and I think it's best seen at very low speeds. And setting off on this journey, I didn't know that this would be so confusing. Since I can't do any kind of skateboarding or gymnastics, why not try and learn something cool on the piano instead? So yeah, day 1 of learning Fantasy Impromptu. I spent the first day familiarising myself with the notes, which took absolutely ages. And I also started to try and work on this 3-4 polyrhythm, which to be honest, didn't go particularly well. But that was just day 1, and on day 2, I instead tried to focus on the notes that you do play together and didn't pay too much attention to the ones that interweave. And on day 3, some bits started to come together. Most of the time I was playing it with a lot of mistakes and pauses, but it was good to see some measurable level of progress. And on day 4, I got to start working on my favourite part of the piece. Now, other than the fact that this section is absolutely mesmerising, I have my suspicions that this inspired the soundtrack in The Legends of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Great Fairy Fountain. They just sound way too similar, and we started practicing this from about day 4 to 7. Fuck! The 3-4 polyrhythm is the same in this section as the beginning of the piece, but I found it a lot easier to practice this rather than the introduction. And it's oddly satisfying to hear the left and right hands individually and then together. And I find that when listening to the song now, I'll hear this left hand a lot more than I used to. And by the end of the first week, we could play through the introduction and a bit of this section, albeit with a lot of pauses. In weeks 2 and 3, we continued with our 2 hours of practice a day, like we did in week 1. I continued to try and read this sheet music note by note because my sight reading is terrible, but it took me by surprise just how much you could learn by practicing 2 hours a day. Of course, this was nowhere near full speed, but I just wanted to get to the point where I could play through these sections note by note, no matter how long it took. Because something that I'd learned from starting to freeboard and do gymnastics in the last couple of years is that if you can land something once, you're most of the way there. Because in every practice session after that, you'll be landing it 1, 2, 3 or more times, by which point you'll start to pick up the muscle memory very quickly. And that moment where something actually lands is just incredibly satisfying. But you only get there if you go through the process of being very bad at it first. So yeah, I finished the piece a couple of days ago, and as you can see, we've got, about a week left until the end there, when it's been a month. I think I've made some good progress on the last page, which I found quite difficult, basically because the right hand kind of jumps around. As you can see, the colours change quite a lot. Kind of means that you're changing chord quite a lot. You're hopping about with the right hand while doing something pretty basic on the left hand. So you see that there's only 2 colours. If that, by the end, you're basically just doing 1 colour. And overall, I can play the piece start to finish with a lot of pauses and mistakes in between. I find the iPad really useful for colouring in the sheet music, and although it is quite basic, having specific colours for bits that repeat makes it much easier for me to learn. It also helped with the polyrhythm stuff because I could tell which notes to play together, as you can see here, and you know, who doesn't like colouring stuff in? And as we made it to week number 4, I decided it'd be really cool to try grand piano for the first time. I thought it'd be really cool to try to play this piece on a proper piano. And so I've rented out a grand piano for 2 hours at a local practice room. Now, I have never played on a grand piano before, so I'm very excited to try it and see how different it is to the piano that I tend to practice on, which is this weighted key Yamaha. I think it's going to be very fun, so let's find out what we can get. Upon arriving, I realised that I'd left my iPad at home, but it had been about a month of quite a lot of practice, so I tried my best to do everything from memory. So this is it. This is how far an amateur can get in 1 month of learning Chopin's Fantasy Impromptu. If you've made it this far into the video, then just thank you very much for watching. I don't normally make piano videos, but this was really fun and incredibly rewarding because I just wanted to prove to myself that I could practice something difficult quite a lot and then eventually learn it, or at least learn it to the extent that I was happy with. Plus, I didn't have a working ankle, really, so freeboarding was out of the question. If this motivates anyone to learn a new skill, whether it's piano or anything else, then for me, the video was a success. And as always, wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a good one.